Melo Movie, I'm sure, was a highly anticipated K-drama of 2025. I admittedly only learned about it about a month ago on TikTok through an advertisement, and I was locked in. Once I saw my boy Choi Woo Shik, I understand my pronunciation leaves much to be desired. One day I'm gonna get these pronunciations right, and y'all not gonna know what to do with me, okay? But in the meantime, please bear with me and my apologies. Once I saw him, I knew I was gonna like it, I knew I was gonna love it, and I did. However, with all that being said, I don't think I can give it 5 stars. Let's get into it. Hi, my name is Carrie, and if you've stumbled upon this video, you either watch a lot of K-dramas or a lot of TV in general, and you're looking for a space where we do deep dives on a show or movie you loved or loved to hate or somewhere in between. Welcome. Okay, so before we get into why I say the show will not be getting 5 stars, let's get into reasons why I loved it. I already addressed the first thing, which is my bias for the male lead. However, I also have a second bias. Now, I don't know where this interest came from, but I truly appreciate a show or a movie that portrays grief in a new light or just well. I think this is something that TV was afraid to dabble in for a long time, or it would just be very generic, or you would see it from everyone else's lens. But I truly appreciate television nowadays giving us new portrayals of grief, and I think they've done well. One example that's not a K drama that I can think of is the show or movie called Good Grief, starring the male actor from Schitt's Creek. I thought that show movie, I can't remember. It's been some time since I've seen it. I think it was a movie. I thought that movie was done excellently well. Another K-drama reference to grief being portrayed well, in my opinion, was Be Melodramatic, which I have an entire YouTube video about how Be Melodramatic was excellent. But anyway, I have this appreciation for shows that portray grief well, and I feel like Mellow Movie did that. The third reason why I love the show is because it was very realistic. And you'll hear me talk about this later as a con. I think at some point the realistic tone of it all worked against the show. However, for the most part, I really appreciated how realistic it was. The drama, or I should say the problems that the couples were having, both the main couple and the secondary couple, I felt like they were both realistic problems. On one hand, you have a guy who chases and pursues this woman incessantly and then ghosts her because he got something going on. Of course, I'm oversimplifying it, but I just feel like in general that is a very realistic scenario. Now, I feel like it's important to say, ladies, teenagers, young women, if a man ghosts you because he has too much going on, even if that is the death or mourning or grief of a very close loved one, if he cannot communicate to you that he has a lot happening, he's probably trash, all right? However, I will make an exception for television. But then on the other hand, you have this couple who broke up abruptly because of one party in the relationship, and they are still tethered to each other years later, and they're trying to navigate that and figure out what that looks like. I think those are both two very realistic scenarios. The fourth reason I really enjoyed the show was for the dialogue. I feel like they had some heavy hitter one-liners in this show. When our male lead said, "I'll hold you first this time," in episode 5 at the movie night, I was like, yes, that makes sense. But really, it was the second male lead who carried those heavy hitter one-liners. For example, in episode 7, when the secondary female lead says, "There's no more romance here, am I right?" And he said, "Do you want me to say yes or do you want me to say no?" And I was like, exactly, period. Okay, as I'm saying these lines back, it's not moving, but in the moments, they were eating it up. But my favorite heavy hitter one liner from the second male lead, he said, "Everything I want is in the past. So why would I care about my future?" I said, you know what? Exactly. Exactly. While we're here, while we're talking about the second leads, let's get into what I did not like about this show, because they are at the center of it all. What annoyed me throughout the show is that the second female lead never actually communicated with her ex-boyfriend why they broke up. She kept taking small jabs at him and his personality and his tendencies, referring to the past, but then when he would bring up the past and say, "Well, why did we break up?" she's like, "Why are we still talking about the past? Let's move forward." And I'm confused because it was as if she was not the one who brought up the past in the first place. I think the theme that we're supposed to get from this couple ultimately not making it is that two people can be very much in love, but just realize that they are not good together and that they're not going to work in a relationship. And I get that. I really do. However, I feel like if you love someone the way she clearly loved that man, all right, there's no reason why you're going into the music store listening to his music 5 years after y'all dated, and you're listening to it and it's the only thing that makes you happy and that gives you peace. You love that man, okay? And I feel like if I love that man the way she loved that man, I would want to feel like I did everything in my power. I exhausted all options. I am certain that we cannot be together. I want to be able to lay my head at night and know I did everything that I could. And I just don't feel like she did that. Because again, she never actually told him why they broke up in the first place. There was never a moment in which he could correct his actions or change or grow or acknowledge his wrongdoings, whatever they may be. I'm not even sure, honestly, if I know why they broke up. If I had to gather, because again, she did not directly say it, it's because he was too self involved and she felt like she was in his shadows. Sure, I get that, but does he know that? Did you really make that clear? Now, although this annoyed me, I do think it was very realistic for several reasons. I think just based on her personality, what we've seen, it's very realistic for her to break up with him cold turkey and then be confused or inconsiderate, really, when she comes back 5 years later to work with him and she's just like, what? We've moved on. Like, why are we getting in our feels about this? This is all about work. That is very inconsiderate considering you left that man to dry. However, I do feel like that is a realistic scenario. And I hate to admit it, but I actually maybe this is why I see it as a realistic scenario. I see myself in her because I know once I decide it's done, like it's done, everything is in the past. Why are we looking back for? Like we've discussed this. Let's move on. I vividly know that I've been in that position before. And so she actually made me reflect on my own past relationships. And I just pray I wasn't that bad as she was. Although I fear I may have been, and now I understand why my exes hate me. Oh well. So yeah, even though I mentioned earlier that I love that the show was realistic, because these realistic scenarios brought about this relationship that couldn't work, I'm mad that realism meant that this couple could not be together. Now, I do wish I was much more of an intellectual and I could say, like, I don't need couples to be together in order for it to be a happy ending. But I don't think my record rings true for that. Really, there's only a handful of K dramas that I've seen, both shows and movies, where I would have been okay with the couple not ending up together in the end. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell you whether the couples did or did not end up together in these K dramas, but I am going to tell you which K dramas I was very much okay with if they did not end up together. So, first are two movies. One was Past Lives and the other was Sweet and Sour. And then the rest are shows Something in the Rain. Something in the Rain, I said it. Nevertheless, Interest of Love, and Hierarchy. So that's 6 out of the 48 K dramas that I've watched so far. And out of those 6 things that I just named to you, I only liked one of them. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that I do want couples to be together in the end if I'm going to classify the show or movie as having a good ending. And granted, in Melo Movie, the main couples did have a happy ending, but we have to all agree that when a show is done well, the secondary and tertiary characters you're just as invested in them as you are the main couple, and that was very much the case here. I wanted to see them win and they did not. Well, romantically, obviously, career wise, like they were both doing well for themselves. Very happy for them. However, because of this, because they did not give my second couple a happy ending together, I'm going to have to deduct 1 star for not having a good ending. And so I'm giving Melo Movie 4 stars. I don't know. Am I petty for this? Let me know what you think.